Hello everyone, Morris here, and today I want to look at the archetypes by ELO at the challenger level in Axie Infinity Origins. So previously I've mostly been looking at, the top 100, top 200, and top 1000, that kind of thing, right? And I of course do realize that there are a lot of you like watching maybe that not at the top 1000, and yeah, then that might not be too applicable to you. And I was thinking, yeah, I should really try and get data that of course is more applicable for everyone. And of course, being a casual player myself, I don't really aim to be at the very top as well. So it's always good to see what is, how is things different at different levels. And I'm just focusing at challenger for now, just because data is easier to get, and also the teams are more well defined, such that it's easier to define archetypes, because once you get further down, then people playing different type of team, that it might be hard to classify in a particular archetype. And that's why I'm just focusing on challenger. Of course, there's also a lot of data to go through if I include like dragons and tiger as well. So that's why for now I'm just focusing on challenger, and let's just jump right into it. Okay, so here is basically the data. Yeah, basically there are only four teams above 2400s ELO, and two Jinx, one sustain, one topaz. That's it. But I guess the more important or interesting one is that at 2300 or above 2300, it's still just topaz, Jinx, and sustain, with a lot of topaz still on top. So that basically covers the top 29 teams. If you go further down, so you can see the ELO difference is actually pretty high, right? At the very top. Whereas like you say maybe top 100, top 150, then this is where we are at about 2200. And at 2200, Topaz is still the main thing. We still see Jinx. We still see Sustain, but now we see Poison, Leafy, Metamorphosis, those things are coming in. And then you go further down, which is kind of where I'm roughly at, right? 2100 to 2200. So this is where you do see more poison. So poison become a bit more dominant compared to sustain. You still, of course, still see topaz and jinx. Those two are still the main one, but you get to see more poison and glorious main creeping in as well. So like there are glorious main teams that are good enough at the 2100. And then we have Heart of Ocean, Leafy as well. So those are the other stuff. But I think the interesting one is like once we get down, of course. Oh, by the way, apologies for the color, because like some of the colors, because I sorted by popularity. So in this case, blue actually means Jinx, right? But in any case, so here Jinx actually kind of yeah, it's the most popular compared to Topaz, but it's very similar, still 30 something percent. So Jinx, Topaz, Poison still like are the main ones at about 2000 ELO. And then, yes, you still see Glorious Main, Sustain, Heart of Ocean. So in that sense, it's still all those. So the meta is still not very diverse at that level. But once you get down to 1900, then this is where you can see it's actually more fun to play in this kind of meta, where you see Topaz, Jinx, Poison, and then Glorious Main, Sustain, AoE as well. So starting to see quite a bit of AoE at this level. And yeah, different things. So it's definitely more spread out, and that just means every time you queue, there's more higher chance of getting a different matchup. And finally, of course, like this is like basically at the lower challenger level, right, at 1800, and this is where there's really a lot of different variety. So there are 3000 teams out here, right? And yeah, Glorious Main actually is the main one. This is pretty interesting. That's because it's just very different from the top, right? Where yeah, here Glorious Main, Poison, people are just playing really different things. And AoE, can you believe it, right? AoE actually is like the third most popular. Whereas Topaz, you don't really see that much, partly because maybe they are just like Topaz is just so good that it will just climb up pretty easily. Yeah, Topaz, Jinx, I think those are pretty high power level, that they probably can climb up pretty easily. That's why you don't see them as much at the lower challenger level. But still, yeah, I think this is like something definitely you need to keep in mind if when you are queuing at particular elo, just because yeah, like certain teams are good against Chorus main. Like for example, AoE. That's why AoE is actually doing pretty well here. Is because like it's pretty good against Chorus main, and at this level, AoE can survive because it can farm on the Chorus main, whereas AoE just suffers against all the other stuff, and so it is very hard to survive on top. Okay, so this is pretty much what I want to go through. There are a bit more description. There's definitely a lot more description in the blog post. In the description, you can check out. And in this blog post, I have a bonus discussion session, section about this thing, which is gaining a competitive advantage from live match information. So I did give it a bit of thought. I'm not going to go through it in detail here, but basically the gist of it is that, like, for me as a casual player, I can get this information relatively easily, right? This kind of distribution. And of course, this is not live, but yeah, it's not difficult to get live information. Let's say, oh, what are the teams played in the past 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? Then you can see who is like playing at a particular ELO and what kind of team they're playing, and perhaps then you can like use it as your advantage. Uh, and the other thing, of course, that that's only for ladder. So like, on the leaderboard, could be an issue if, let's say, one player has that information, the other doesn't. Then there's definitely some disadvantage in terms of information. But also in esports as well. Just because, let's say, if you are in a small tournament, and you can definitely look at what your opponent has played in the previous round, and that might give you some information. Of course, they can always switch as well, but still, like having that information is always better than not having it usually, right? So that's why it also could be a bit of a problem here. I'm not going to go through in detail, but I'm just trying to say that it is a problem, or at least it could be a potential problem. And I also have like some potential solution, or one really, which could be that just keep the match information inaccessible for like maybe a few hours, 2 hours, 1 hour even, just so that you don't get the live information available for everyone. That might be a way to go, but of course I don't know the tech behind it. I'm not sure if it's even feasible. But yeah, so that is all I want to cover today. Yeah, so that's it, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.